Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Craig from iProgress, and today I'm going to talk you through how you can craft an effective introduction to a paper that you're writing. Okay, so lots of times when we're supervising students, what we find is that building a rationale for a particular piece of work, for a particular piece of research, is really difficult for a lot of people, particularly at kind of the undergraduate level, when maybe the base level of knowledge isn't quite there. They've not done too much reading around the topic. They just have a vague idea about what they want to do and why they might want to do it. Now, the important thing when you come to writing a paper, though, is that the introduction to your work should really provide a strong rationale, a really strong justification for why you're doing what you're doing. So when we're thinking about how to structure the introduction part of a research paper, what we like to do is to think about it as a funnel. You start off really broad at the beginning. What's your problem statement? What are the issues that you're trying to address within your particular study? It might be that you're looking at a particular crime type, maybe. What's the prevalence of that crime type? What's the prevalence of the health issue that you're trying to study? What's at the societal level, what's going on? Are there any policy considerations maybe to consider? As you get further down, though, in this introduction funnel, you'll start to specify the specific things that you're interested in. So, for example, if you were interested in violent crime, if you're trying to answer a question that's related to violent crime, such as what's the effect of cognitive thinking styles in relation to the interpretation of potentially violent cues, you'd start off with your broad problem statement that violent crime is a particularly problematic issue in society. This is the prevalence, this is how many murders there are in society, this is how many violent crimes there are. But there's an issue in terms of how society addresses this. How can we prevent crime before it happens? You'll then start to think about what are the antecedents, what are the causes of violent crime. So it could be that there are biological issues that are associated with violence tendencies or violent tendencies. Are there issues around thinking styles in terms of people's psychology that might be important in causing crime? Are there social issues that from a societal level we can start to address? You'll start to pick apart some of these different potential causes before settling on one particular aspect of this, which in your case will be thinking styles, cognitive thinking styles. Now, what you need to do is to figure out a way of disentangling all of those different things. You might talk about biology, you might talk about cognition, you might talk about society, but how do you then weave that into a narrative where you come to settle on cognition maybe being the key thing that you're thinking about? So you might want to stress about how it might be much easier maybe at a societal level to introduce something that will allow people to think more about what they're doing in the moment rather than trying to instantiate some big societal intervention. Can you do subtle nudges maybe to make people think about the way that they're interpreting potentially provocative cues in their everyday lives? That might be enough for you to decide in your introduction that cognition is the area that you're going to be addressing. So again, thinking about this funnel, start broad. What's the problem that you're addressing? Narrow down slightly. What are the potential topics that you might talk about and that you might look to address? And then specifically, what is the topic that you're going to be really studying in depth in your paper? If you're doing that, you're slowly kind of peeling away the layers of potential difficulty, of potential confounding influences on your research question. Once you've decided and once you've justified why your particular construct is important, you can start to do a deep dive into what do we currently know about this area? What do we currently know about criminal thinking styles, cognitive thinking styles that might lead to violent offending? So review the recent literature, review the kind of theories around your particular construct in that section just there. Once you've done that, you can start to analyze what do we not know. So are there certain samples maybe that particular mechanisms haven't been tested in, and why that might be important? That's the important part though. Why might that gap be important? Research shouldn't just fill a gap for the sake of filling a gap. There should be some reason why that gap needs to be filled. Is there an important theoretical hole that you might want to address? Is there a way of thinking about how it might work in a different population? But justifying why that mechanism might work differently in a particular population. Once you've done that, you start to develop a rationale as to you doing something different, about you posing a specific research question that will fill a particular gap or that will address a particular question within the existing evidence base. Once you've done that, state specifically what that question is, if you have any hypotheses, what they are, and then start to think about how you're going to address that. Give some very basic ideas about how you're going to address that question before you move on to your method section. So if you follow the funnel method for framing your introduction, start broad. What's the problem? What's the issue that you're addressing? What are the potential ways to tackle this problem? And then justifying the way that you're going to address it before doing a deep dive into that particular area. So you're slowly peeling away the layers and the levels of difficulty and of confusion before you're left with your polished diamond of a rationale and justification for your question. Hopefully that's been useful to you. Drop down into the comments and let us know what your favourite techniques are for justifying and providing a rationale for your research. If you found this useful, please do drop a like and a subscribe on the channel. It really does help us out, and we will see you in the next video.